Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our SightRight Global Q Sports Network live Facebook calls. This morning we have, arguably one of the greatest legends of the game. He's described as one of the most elegant styles of play you could have ever witnessed. And Terry, welcome to our live call. Terry Griffiths OBE, 1979 world champion. I think you were runner-up as well, weren't you, Terry, in 1988?
Yeah.
You've completed the Triple Crown, which is only one of 11 players to do that. You've got one awesome coaching record, but you also had an awesome amateur record. And I'd love to be able to go through some of this with you today. We might have lots of questions coming in, but first of all, how are you within all of this lockdown?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Your hair is not as long as mine. Look. Look.
Can you drag it down over your face?
Oh shit! I forgot in the intro that perhaps this is the man who taught Mark Williams what banter is really like.
Oh, I'm not sure about
that. Can you imagine these two together? Huh? So anyway, so lockdown treating you well?
Yes, very good. I'm quite enjoying it, to be honest. We do a lot of gardening and things, and it's nice to have some peace, and I'll still be. I'm still waiting for the snooker clubs to open. That's what I want, so I can get in there coaching. Especially now with SightRight.
You're missing it, aren't you? You're missing it badly, yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes.
You know, I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit later because I know, you know, the emotions that go through us as coaches. But you've got added advantage. You've been in the hot seat in many occasions, but it can be quite a tough time when we're watching matches, can't it? But we'll get there. Can I take us and any of the viewers through where you started falling in love with this game?
It was a long time ago.
Well, I haven't caught up with you on that one yet.
I was 13 years of age.
13, yeah?
Yes. I went to a snooker club in Llanelli with my friend and didn't come out. Absolutely loved it.
I think Jimmy White was guilty of that at one stage, wasn't he?
Yes, most of us are.
You never came out. So you fell in love with the game at the age of 13?
Yes, and then I went through the amateur system, which I won the Welsh Championships, 2 English Championships. I lost in the quarterfinals of the World Championships.
Yeah.
In South Africa, which was quite a strange place, considering I live in Llanelli.
Anybody who's been to Llanelli will know exactly what you mean there. Yeah. Yeah. So you were English amateur champion twice, as well as the Welsh amateur champion. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you remember
I beat a guy from upline. I can't remember his name. Who said something? His name was.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. And then I beat Joe Johnson up in Blackpool.
Joe Johnson.
Joe Johnson, yes.
Right. Yeah. So then you turned pro in, was it 1978 or 79? 78?
78. I was very pleased because at the same time, in those days, you had to go down to see the committee in Bristol, and they'll decide if you can become a professional. And who was in the same room as me? Steve Davis. Oh, I love him.
So you all had to go into this room together to get your pro ticket?
That's correct, yes.
Wow. I mean, that's...
Yeah, you ought to have... if you hadn't made the English Championship or your Welsh or Scottish Championships, they don't take you on. So there wasn't many trying at that time because there wasn't much money about.
Yeah. But it's quite strange, isn't it, when you look at a qualifying process that says someone has to sign you off. So it was quite tough to become a pro. You had to be deemed to be good enough at that time, didn't you?
Yes, well, as far as I was looking at it, I just wanted to see if I could beat or play against the top professional players. I had no big ambitions to win the World Championship, I can tell you now. But I just thought that after if I didn't do well after 2 or 3 years, I was going back to work.
Do you know something? When I'm coaching, Terry, there's one thing that I love, and that's a person who doesn't know how good they are. Now, you say that you were just testing yourself because you proved how good you are because you were one of very few. I'm not even sure anybody's done this since. You won the World Championship on your first attempt, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't. Has anybody else done that since? If they have, I can't remember.
Yeah, Sean has done it.
Sean.
Sean has done it. I don't know. There must be somebody else, surely. Not as good as me, but there must be somebody else.
But so you didn't know if you were good enough. You didn't really expect to win the World Championship, and then suddenly, within 12 months of turning pro, you're world champion.
Well, it's not quite that. I mean, I played Clive Everton in the final of or semi-final of the English Championships down in London.
Yeah.
And he told me, why don't you take professional up? I had no idea of playing professionally. So he said, I think it's a good time for you to go, which it was, of course. But when I went there, just to see how good I was against professionals, though I'd played them in exhibitions and things, but playing in the Crucible for the World Championships is a little bit different.
You're telling me. Can you remember? I mean, I know it's a while back, but can you remember what it was like to walk out there for the first time?
Well, the first time I went out there, believe it or not, in those days, you practiced on the match play, on the match table. There was no other tables.
Right. So none of the 3 tables that we have in the back room, none of that.
None of that. No.
Right.
No. Off you go. And then I remember waiting for the television to come on and say what the draw was.
Yeah.
Because then it was 16-1, and I was an outsider, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting down in my house with my wife, waiting, shaking, and we're going along now. And next thing, we're up to number 3.
Yeah.
Number 2 was Perry Mans, and number 1 was the 7 times world champion, or 6 times world champion, is he? Ray Reardon.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sitting in the chair and thinking, please give me Perry Mans. It's not that he wasn't a good player. He won the Masters, and he was runner-up the previous year against Ray Reardon.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would have beaten Ray because he was my hero and still is.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, when you hear people playing their heroes and the impact that it has on a player. But so you sat there thinking, please give me Perry Mans, please give me Perry Mans.
Well, when I went to the Crucible, what I really wanted is to get on the television so I could make some money with exhibitions, because obviously I was a working man and didn't have any money. Paid all the bills 6 months later.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the BBC on the Monday I was going up there was said they're not going to come there.
Yeah.
And that was very disappointing for me. They were I don't know what it was, but after that, when they said then on the Monday that okay, it is going to go on the television.
Yeah.
Then that lifted me quite a lot, to be honest with you. But not as much as winning the championships, but it did lift me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I played Alex Higgins, which I think was one of the best matches I've been playing in. Well, it's always the same with Alex Higgins. It's always a great match.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, if we turn around, I mean, from a career point of view, everything that you achieved, I know when we got together, 1997? This was January. Do you know? Just before we kick off into that, there's one person who I know is your favourite fan out there. All right, and it's really weird the way things work because you never expected to be world champion.
No.
Look where you are now in terms of what you've achieved in the game, not just from a playing point of view, but from a coaching point of view, and we'll talk about that. But this one guy now was voted the best assistant referee in the world following the World Cup, which he was an assistant referee in. He used to work with me back in the old days in the bank, and he took a call from Terry Griffiths, and he came running to me saying, Steve, I've got Terry Griffiths on the line. So we're talking about a man now who's come out of banking, a bit similar to me. We've come out of banking, we followed our own routes. He's ended up refereeing and not refereeing, but an assistant referee on the line. He's had arguments with Alex Ferguson, and he's been involved with all of these things that football involves you in. And his love of snooker, Terry, was such that I took him to the back of the Crucible, and he absolutely loved that and compared it with walking out at the World Cup. Now that for me is, and when I turn around and say he took your call, that was like anybody taking a call from, well, in his mind, he's never forgotten and he will never forget. And you've always been his favourite player, snooker player since, and he loves the game. So, I'll remind him, I'll let him know, but I still remember he was so excited when your call came through. But so after, in your career, if we turn around and look back first, before we get to any retirement stage, who did you used to enjoy playing most?
Alex Higgins.
Alex Higgins.
Wherever he wants to play him.
Yeah, I mean, the excitement. I always used to remember that if he didn't, the one thing I kind of knew, that if he didn't have a quick table, he would get annoyed because he couldn't do with the cue ball what he wanted to do.
No, he was a fabulous player.
Yeah.
Is definitely the best. He's not the best player I've ever played, but the best player to play against. Because with Alex Higgins, you may not see him for 3 frames. You're just sitting down, he's potting everything. But you know that there's going to be 3 other frames that he can't pot a ball.
Yeah.
But you never know when it's going to come. But he was a wonderful player and very strong in deciders, I must say.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Who was the player? Well, who would you say that you didn't enjoy playing most?
Steve Davis, really. He had this habit of beating me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve was a very good player. He was wiping everybody away for 10 years.
So really, when he was dominating the game to a certain extent, he kind of, I always look at it and say the people that are dominating, quite often they can stunt the careers of some other people, can't they? Because if you happen to meet them at the wrong time in a tournament, some people will say, well, to be the best, you've got to beat the rest. But at certain stages, if a player's dominating, then and you happen to be in their side of the draw every time, it has a big impact. But you used to do a lot technically, didn't you? I mean, I've read your book. All right, I've got it here. I've got it here. Just so you can remember. I have 3 books in my locker, Terry. I have this one. All right.
I haven't heard of him.
Sadly, I'm afraid his approach didn't do my game much good. I then had this one. So I have 3 books in my locker. All right. A lot of respect for that man.
Yes, Frank Callan.
Yeah. And do you know, if it wasn't, I went to see Frank and he didn't give me the right answers. But if it wasn't for Frank, you and I wouldn't have been talking. And this one bailed me out of trouble. Hey, when my after following this one, Terry, this one bailed me out. Oh dear, it's true. It's true. But you know, when you look at all of your career as a player, what were your most exciting times? What times did you really enjoy the most?
I don't think it's enjoyable in professional sport, especially snooker.
Yeah,
You're not going to win all the games. You're going to lose a lot of games, and I think there's a lot of pressure on in any professional sport, you know. But
yeah,
with snooker, it's only you. There's nobody helping you in a team. That's why I wanted to go coaching when I finished, and
yeah,
when I finished in 1997, just before you came down to my club in Llanelli
yeah.
and drove, what is it, 7 hours, was it?
It felt like I was driving to the end of the world, Terry.
Well, you were.
I was. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but what happened there? I wanted, I was going to retire,
Yeah.
but I wanted to retire in the Crucible Theatre.
That was a magic time.
So you came down and showed me a bit of SightRight. It was early days then, but it fixed me a bit, and I played a qualifier in Alfie Burden in Telford.
That's right.
And I played probably the best I played for a long time, which, you know, that's down to you. And then I went up to the Crucible, and who did I draw? Mark Williams.
I sat.
I mean, who else? I'd love to not play him. So I played him.
He was number 3 in the world at the time, wasn't he? We picked a big gun, didn't we?
If you hadn't come down and shown me the SightRight, against Mark Williams, who beat Stephen Hendry 9-2 the tournament before the qualifiers, against Stephen Hendry, and I thought, well, okay, I know I'm not going to carry on anymore, and I went up there, and what I learned from that in my coaching at times, you know, is that when there's nothing in front of you, because I know I'm retiring, I played much better, but mainly because of the SightRight thing you done to me, and I got to 9-7 against Mark Williams.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind me, Terry.
And then he came back, and I missed the plant.
Yeah, along the cushion. It wasn't easy, though, was it?
You got to understand, I hadn't played for almost a year because I was looking after the WC coaching. Yeah. So I wasn't playing at all then. But if I hadn't had SightRight, Mark would have beaten me 10-2 or something, and laughed at me for the rest of his life.
Well, I remember, I mean, I sat up at the back of the Crucible. You've got your seat in there, and that's the first time I'd ever been to the Crucible. And my heart was in my mouth, not only when you were announced in, but when you were 9-7, it was like, I remember those thoughts, and I was just sitting tight, waiting. And then that black that you had, it was along the cushion. It wasn't an easy black. I mean, you know, but Mark has a habit of coming back at people, as poor David Gilbert knows. And you know, he was such a class player. But you walked out of that Crucible proud, didn't you? I think that was the most important thing. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, what a career! What a career!
I started my career and finished my career in the Crucible.
Yeah, such a special moment, and I always remember the wave.
Yes.
And I just, you know, I'll never forget that, Terry. It was honestly the moments that we share through our lives. But you then moved. You'd already moved into coaching, and what for you? I mean, how many years is that now? 1997. That's 20 odd years coaching now. What would you say to any new person coming into professional coaching? What would you say is one of the greatest things of being a top coach in your position? What would you say is one of the greatest?
Well, obviously is helping my players, and when they win, you need to jump off the chair, and when you lose, it's exactly the same as when I was playing when I lost, which was a lot of times.
Yeah. It's so tough, isn't it?
It's tough because you can't do anything about it. Once the player goes out there,
yeah,
you get some time, obviously, in just before he goes out to have a chat with them. But then when they start missing balls or playing very well, there's a huge difference. Exactly the same as when you're playing professional snooker.
yeah. I mean that, they always talk about having the mid-interval cup of tea on the TV, and when I used to watch the game as an amateur, all I would ever hear is, they're having their cup of tea at the interval. My goodness, some of the intervals, whilst it's just, for us it's client confidentiality, but those intervals can change things significantly. They in all sorts of different ways, can't they? And for a player, you've been in intervals as a player. To keep the mind clear or to prepare yourself to go out, it's an incredible experience, that 15 minutes at the right time when you're looking at winning the world championship. It's an incredible 15 minutes. I remember the last two, the last intervals just before that final session where someone's going to pick up the title. That's huge. But what would you say? I mean, I remember sometimes the feelings that you get as a coach. You've won so much yourself, but the feelings that you get as a coach. How did you learn to control those, or did you ever? Because it's.
I always had an idea that I was going to become a coach after my professional, snooker time.
Yeah.
And it worked for me, and I loved it. So nothing really bothered me apart from my players not playing well.
Yeah.
And losing. That was it was all about for me, like it is for you. But
yeah.
Well, you've come along now, and I've got to be honest with you. I mean, you've put a huge amount of work over the years into your site, right? And I think it's going to be very, very successful for you. You've got a great team, and of course you've coached so many of the top players. And let's be fair, it's not just the top players of Mark Williams, Ronnie O'Sullivan's, and whoever else you are.
Yeah.
There's the players that you've also coached now who are really down the rankings and are now coming up. Those are the best ones.
I think it's exciting when you can help make a difference to players. But you talk about the team. I mean, I think what some people don't know is that you've got one hell of a coaching family. We'll talk about Wayne in a minute, but you've got what I would call a huge qualified coach in Q Sports with Wayne at the Hong Kong Sports Institute, and your other son is a big golf coach, isn't he? And I think, is he over in Spain at the minute or whatever?
No, he's in Portugal.
Portugal. Yeah.
He's been there 4 years. I hope he doesn't come back.
so you've got so coaching is in the blood in your family. But when we turn around and look at our team in the network now that we've brought together, I mean, before we get to talking about the network, it'll be remiss of me. I want to say one thing. When I started coaching around the tour, you helped me get there. You working with you, and the support that you gave me and the introductions that you made, both Steve Davis and other people, was incredibly helpful to me. But there's one thing that I used to hate and love. Because when I was coaching my players and they were coming up against yours, I didn't feel very good at times. I had that great respect for you as a player. And then there were times later on, Terry, I don't know if you've ever felt this, but there's been times when I've been in that players' room at the Crucible where I've known that we've got this. Now, that is a feeling I don't think I'd have ever experienced without learning from you. And when I say we've got this, when you look at the other players around the table, you think, my man's got this, we've got this. And that's a weird feeling to think that you kind of know that Your name's on that title because you're looking around at the other opponents and you think you know your players in the right space. I wouldn't have had that without you. That's a feeling from a coaching perspective. That's kind of a knowing feeling, and I bet you've experienced that before. But you didn't. I didn't half look at you as someone that thinks, "Oh no, I'm up against one of Terry's players again."
Well, we had.
And I still do. And I still do.
We had some good runs together. I coached eight world champions, which was nice.
Eight.
But
yeah.
Yeah. But the truth of it all is we just give them a little bit.
Yeah.
That we don't win anything for anybody.
No, they hit the ball.
Because when I ask the players, would they want to come with me, and why do you want to come with me?
Yeah.
And they tell me, because you have gone through everything that I've gone through.
That's
what the players tell me.
Yeah.
So they understand me more, rather than people who just come up and just tell them to, change their kick action or whatever. I don't know, but in the professional game, especially at the top in the Crucible, it's 90% mind.
Yeah, when you're in that, it is a cauldron, isn't it? It is a cauldron. But
Yeah.
I think it was you who once always said to me, if you don't have the right technique, if you haven't got the sound technique, you'll never make top 16. If you haven't got the right mechanics, if you haven't got the soundness in everything about your game, then you'll never make top 16. I never forgot that. The mental elements, so many players have such a different, they can go from one end of the spectrum to the other, can't they, mentally? And it's quite fascinating to see the behaviors and the way that their mind changes. And I think when you're in their corner and they can turn around and say, Terry, what was this like? What did this feel like? And you can be honest and say to them what it feels like. That must be a huge help.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I hope it was, because a lot of my players had success, which is for me is great, and
yeah.
And I remember people saying, well, how were your players doing so well? I used to tell them, because they're good players. I wish I'm still the same position. I wish I had a coach.
Yeah.
When I was playing professionally, I think I would have done better.
When you were retiring, I was gutted. I don't mind admitting, because I know you felt you then could have done more, and but you'd already made the decision. And it's quite fascinating. When we look at the age of the player now, as long as the eyes work okay, and as long as the temperament is okay, and we know what we mean by that, then this isn't as perishable a sport as people used to think it was. And I think that's proven now by some of the ages of the top 16 players. And I think it's quite fascinating now that there are a lot of the young players that are coming through. They have not got the foundations that many of these top guys had with the pro-am circuits, the toughness of competition. So there's a lot for these young new players to catch up with, I think.
Well, personally, it is the Welsh amateur with me.
Yeah.
That's how I came through. The Welsh amateur was so. I tell you something. There were so many good players in Wales playing in competitions against them, and I remember losing when I started to go up to the Rhondda and around there against the top amateur players in Wales, and I lost 4-0 to two of the players I went up to. It was a long time ago. I can't remember the names now. I lost 4-0 twice, coming back in the car with my father, and I said to him, I had a bit of armour in there, Dad, but if that's their best, I can beat them.
That's a nice thing to say. Can I share something with you?
Yeah.
I don't mind doing this publicly now. Some people don't know this. In my days as an amateur playing snooker, all I ever wanted to do was win the Norwich Open. My father really never watched me play snooker. I used to play #1 in the county for pool as well. So I used to love cue sports. I wanted to become a pro at one stage, but up until that time, I knew that various different things were not right. Occupation was good, and my love for the game though was still a huge passion. And I was always trying to resolve the problems. The problems were, why would I be missing one day and not missing another? And, I've had people put their cues away after 5 frames of 80 odd, 90 odd breaks consecutive. And then I've gone to the table after playing someone like David Rowe, played him in a tournament when I was a new kid on the block, gone back, copied his technique, 135, 120, 90 odd, 3 consecutive frames. Then on the Tuesday, I couldn't pot a ball. And I always knew that wasn't temperament, that was technique. But one thing that SightRight did for me, but it was you really, because the inspiration that it gave to me when we did what we did when you retired, the inspiration was in all the years, I used to get to what we call the back room, the last 8. I was kind of known as a little bit as the Jimmy White of Norwich. In all the years that I tried to win the Norwich Open, the year that I won it was 1997. And that was in the month after you were at the Crucible, you retiring at the Crucible. Now, sadly, my father had passed away. He passed away before that. But I always wanted to win that Norwich Open. And I know for a fact that there was a belief element that came in there as a result of what we did in January and what you did at the Crucible. And that led through into my game. And I thank you for that, because that was one of the toughest trophies. I always believed I was good enough to win that. And it was only the Norwich Open, but at amateur level, it's like winning the London Open. It's like winning the Leeds Open. For me, it was important. Norfolk events, we won everything. But I could not win that Norwich Open, Terry. And I thank you for that. Because in its own way, it kind of led to...
In a way, a win's a win, isn't it? Whether it's the World Championships or local stuff, like when I started to play, I just loved it.
Yeah,
I still love it, but I'm not good enough at
the moment. I'm not too sure I'll ever pick up a cue with arthritis and stuff, but hey ho. Let's talk. I've got a question before we move on, and we won't keep you too much longer if you don't mind. I've got a guy called Lev147. I'm not too sure what his name is. I'd be very interested to know about the cue Terry played with throughout his career. I don't think he changed this at any point. A one-piece maple shaft, hand-spliced ebony. Who was it manufactured by? Length, tip, size, weight. Can you remember all of that? Can you remember?
Really, no. I did. My first cue I was playing with the World Championships. Then it sort of fell apart a bit. So I had another cue. I only played with 2 cues.
Yeah.
And they were both maple.
Both maple. Yeah.
Both maple. Yeah.
So I think hopefully, Lev, that answers your question. Let's talk about the network. We brought the network together. I don't want to bore too many people here, but for you to come on board our global network is a huge honor, Terry. And we've now got a team between our marquee pros, and I kind of put you in there. We have to, between Stephen Hendry, Mark Williams, Sean Murphy, and yourself. But more importantly, you're on board with us within our coaching team. There's yourself, Wayne. We've got Lee Walker, who I would never have met except for you putting me beside him at the awards ceremony in 1997. That's the first time I met Lee. You put me beside him, and now it's his fault that Mark won the world. Again.
You can't get rid of him now.
No, he put me together with Mark, and then another success. But what a team we've got. And with Alex Leely in the 9-ball pool world, we could be having someone else join us very soon. And in the 9-ball pool world, which is quite exciting. But you know, this team together, the things that we're looking to do to help people, I kind of liken it to the Martini principle. We want SightRight coaching to be available anytime, any place, anywhere. And to do this and to be making this available online as well as face to face, we're going to have an awesome coaching team on the tour. And you being part of this is a privilege that, Terry, I could never have imagined 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I played. And, you know, this is a real privilege, but it's not about the privileges that we have, because our passion to share our coaching and to help people around the world is more important. And for that, I'm going to say a huge big thanks. But we've got some really exciting stuff coming. But I also know that I think we've got a list of people that are waiting to become accredited coaches with us. So we'll be getting dates out soon for that. And hopefully down at Llanelli, in that place at the end of the world. But it's kind of where it all began. So for me, it's fitting. It's fitting for us to hold our first course together with Lee and so in Llanelli, but we've just got to work out dates with COVID. But I'm really privileged, Terry. You're going to help us build something with Stephen, with Mark, with Sean, with your son. You're going to help us build something incredibly special, and for that I thank you. So, is there any questions you want to ask of me?
Yeah, can you stop talking?
You, my friend, are a legend in its truest sense. You really are. I don't think apart from when we get together at venues, I can't wait to see you again.
Okay.
Love to all the family, okay?
Okay,
all right.
Thanks very much.
You look after yourself, Terry.
Okay.
All right. You're an inspiration. Be good. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed that. You know, this man has been an inspiration in my life as a coach, and yeah, quite a special time. So, hope you all have a great day. Catch you later.